Wolfpack fans, and welcome to another edition of Wolfpack Watch. I'm your host, Doug Wood. This is the edition reviewing the most recent game, the game at Marietta, and our upcoming game next week on Friday, homecoming versus North Cobb. With me again is Coach Bob Bryant. Coach, welcome.
Thank you.
Unfortunately, we are talking to you after our first loss of the season at Marietta, a 36-14 loss in which we tried our hardest, but they have a lot more talent than we do in some spots, and we had trouble shutting down a few of their players. So, Coach, we're talking for the first time after a loss here at North Paulding, and I know that is not the circumstances that you wanted to do this interview, but I will ask you first your general thoughts on the game Friday night.
Well, you know, we knew going in that Marietta was a very talented football team, and you don't have 12 kids on your team that's got Division I offers and can't play football, and that's what they've got, and I was happy with our kids' effort. I thought they didn't quit, they played hard, and a couple of the touchdowns, they just threw it up to the 6'5" kid, in the end zone, and he just out-jumped everybody and made a play. We had guys in position to make the play, it just didn't happen. And I told our guys after the game that sometimes the ball doesn't bounce our way, and it didn't bounce our way Friday night against a very good football team in Marietta. And when we make the mistakes that we did offensively, defensively, and some on special teams, and then we let a good team like Marietta take advantage of it, then the outcome is the outcome.
Talk a little bit about Eric Gilbert. He's the one obviously catching 5 touchdowns in that game, Bailey throwing the 5 touchdowns to him. We talked before this game about the talent level they have, and one of them was Gilbert. And so many fans will watch that game and say, why didn't you cover that guy? There's your question. Why didn't you cover that guy?
Well, we were in a lot of situations, we were double covering him. We had a guy in his face. We kind of bracketed him. We had a safety over the top and a corner. He's just an outstanding player, and made some tremendous catches. And we had a couple of times where our guys switched off when they were supposed to be locked in man and have safeties over the top. But for the most part, we were in the right position. He just 2 catches in the end zone. He just jumped up over 3 people and made the catch. And there's not a whole lot you can do about the genetics of Eric Gilbert being 6'5", 250 pounds, running a 4.5 and having a 40-inch vertical. No one ranked prospect in the country. I mean, he's every bit of the best football player that I've coached against. I coached against A.J. Green when he was in South Carolina in an All-Star game, but just on the field, looking at Eric Gilbert and what he looks like in his pads and how he played, he's a tremendous football player.
Talk a little bit about the defensive side of the ball relative to some changes that you made to try to stop this offense, because I noticed one change, Kellen Autenreith was on defense a lot more than he has been in the past. Looked like you had him locked up against Keaton quite a bit, and then that became a non-story when Keaton got hurt and left the game. But you're right, on defense, I don't know of anybody on this roster that we have that matches up against 6'5", 250 with the athleticism that he has. But just generally talk about some of the changes that you guys did scheme-wise for this game.
Well, we had schemed a couple of things where we were going to come in and we were going to bracket their best 2 players, which is where Bailey liked to throw the ball to Gilbert and then to number 10, and we would bring an extra 2 DBs on the field and put them in those 2 guys' faces and run with them man-to-man all over the field, and then have safeties and corner help over top. And the Tuesday of practice, one of the guys that we were counting on doing that came down with an injury and wasn't able to play. So then we moved one of our other young kids, a sophomore, Latrell Juiceum, and then Kellen Autenreith came over from the offensive side to help out when we were doing those bracket situations. And then our top 2 corners, with Q Carter and Noah Lean, and then Noah going out of the game early with the shoulder injury. And then one of those other guys we were going to use the bracket was Xavier Wilson, where we had to take him off the bracket and we had to put him at corner because Noah was out of the game. So, we hope Noah's going to be okay. We hope Dalton King, who got hurt Tuesday in practice, we hope that he's going to be okay as well, because we'll need them for the long haul for the rest of the season.
One of the things that I noticed, I actually stayed home and watched the game on GPB, and one of the things I noticed, I'm just going to bring this up not as a general shot at any particular group, But one of the things that I did notice is that the Hail Mary at the halftime that they ruled was caught by Gilbert for a touchdown. If you go back and look at that replay, it was an interception by Wilson with his D on the ground in possession of the ball. And the reason I bring this up is, what are your thoughts in the future relative to replay being in the high school level and being able to overturn something like that? Because that as it counted for them for a touchdown, that should have been reversed. It should have been our ball on the 20-yard line going the other way with a 21-7 halftime lead. Might have changed the game a little bit. Who knows? I mean, it may not change the outcome, but it changes the game just a bit. Your general thoughts on that?
Well, I saw it on our tape as well. I didn't look at the GPB deal, but I looked at it on our tape, and it was an interception that got taken away from him once he hit the ground on the bottom of a pile. Instant replay in high school football would be outstanding, to make sure that the referees get the calls right. But whether that's ever going to come or not, I don't think so, just because of the sheer magnitude of having an extra person there to do the instant replays. And we'd have to have cameras from each referee crew at each game to actually do it. I mean, I'm all for it, but I don't know if that'll ever happen in high school football, just from the sheer financial standpoint of it. From the GHSA having to foot that bill for every game. Maybe they could do it for playoff games and for or finals and state championships and stuff like that. Maybe they can try it in that situation, but we're not going to make any excuses on them. I mean, we shouldn't have been in that situation to begin with. If we'd have got a first down there right before the half, then they'd have never got the ball back. So,
yeah, the logistics of the issue relative to the number of high school games, I agree that it becomes a scheduling nightmare. So yeah, I sort of agree with your sentiments, but boy, I sure wish we would have had the benefit of that call, because
I do too.
It could have changed the game quite a bit.
Oh yeah, 21-7 halftime deficit's much better than a 29-7 halftime deficit.
I agree. We don't have. We talked before the interview. We don't have players of the game after this loss, but just generally tell me who you thought sort of stood out in the effort category relative to this game. To be quite honest with you, Xavier Wilson put in the situation that he was in. I actually thought he played pretty well. He gave it his all. He knocked down a couple passes. He played Gilbert as hard as he could. So that's one that I saw. Malmgren, he threw his first interception this year. That was a little bit disappointing, because I thought it was actually a good throw that he made. I just don't think he saw the coverage. And in general, our defense as a whole, you had one long play by Riker Brown and then the touchdown by Autenreith that I know we had. So just generally give me your sense of thought as it relates to who you thought stood out.
Well, and those guys that you mentioned as well. And, I thought, like you said, Xavier Wilson was really upset at halftime, after the touchdown right there at the half. But I talked to him at halftime and told him that, I said, hey man, I said I can't all of a sudden make you 6'5" and 230 pounds that can jump. I said, but I said you're doing a great job. I said you've been put in a bad situation. I said we need you in the second half. And I thought for the situation he was put in, and people see those plays and say, oh, well, he gave up this touchdown, he gave up that touchdown, but he knocked down several balls as well, had several pass breakups, and I thought he did an outstanding job putting the situation that he was put in. Then on the other side with, LaQuinta Carter and then, our two safeties, and then our linebackers, they did a good job. And, it's just I think one or two plays on offense, one or two plays on defense. If we'd have made one or two more plays on offense and had one or two stops on those jump balls in the end zone, then I think the game would have been much tighter in the fourth quarter, and we'd have had a shot to win.
So that gets us to the end of the Marietta week. We're now 5-1, 0-1 in the region, and that really means nothing at this point, because you got 4 games ahead of you, and specifically, we have the next game ahead of us here at the Den. Next Friday, 7:30 for homecoming against North Cobb. North Cobb traditionally is one of our bigger rivals in the region. Always plays us tough. They have a lot of talent, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Tell me what your thoughts are going into this game.
Well, probably top to bottom athletically and what they do defensively and offensively, probably the most I would say, complete team that we played. They can run the football. And they want to run the football. Marietta really didn't care about running the football. They were just going to throw it every snap. When you've got Harrison Bailey and all those cats at receiver, that's what they're going to do. But North Cobb does a good job of mixing up the run and the pass on offense, and they've got a really good running back. Best offensive line that we played against this year that we've seen on tape so far, and their front three on defense. Their three defensive linemen are the three best defensive linemen that we've played this year as well. So we're gonna have to come ready to play Friday night. We're gonna have to lick our wounds really quick and then get back on the field tomorrow and prepare for a really good North Cobb team at home on homecoming.
As far as what you see for this game coming up, anything that you pinpoint that we gotta button up? We've talked a couple times on some of these interviews about some of the mental mistakes and some of the mistakes that are costing us plays and stuff like that. One of the things that I saw on Friday night, and I think you'll agree that we got to clean up the penalties, pre-snap penalties, even penalties after the snap, lineman downfield or a hold, and holding. You'll traditionally hear from anybody who is a talking head, holding can be called on every play.
Right.
So, I'm not going to get into that specifically, but some of these plays, some of these penalties are really killing us. Some of these mental mistakes are really killing us, not allowing for our drives to continue and stuff like that. Talk about that having to be pretty much buttoned up and cleaned on Friday night so that we don't kill ourselves.
Well, I tell our guys all the time, I have 100 plays for 2nd and 10 and 3rd and 10, I don't have many for 2nd and 20 and 3rd and 20. And we keep putting ourselves in those situations at the most inopportune times, a cut block on a pass that we were, and we were moving the football, and then, the kid said, well, Coach, I was going at his waist, and, when he went at his waist, the guy kind of leaped up a little bit and caught him in his leg, so the referee, and all his wisdom threw a cutting penalty downfield. But I can never say that the referees made any wrong calls. So that there was the correct call on that, and the correct call they made in the end zone as far as they know. But it was a game that whether the referees made the calls or not, and whether we had 100 yards in penalties or 50, we as a team. And as a coaching staff, we didn't play well enough to beat a team as good as Marietta, and that's something that we'll have to fix between now and next week. We've got 4 days to get ready for North Cobb, and we've got to. We can't change this outcome of this game now, and that's what I told the kids after the game. That I was really pleased with their effort. I mean, a lesser team would have folded up at halftime when they were down 29-7, giving up a touchdown with no time on the clock, and when it came out flat and just not played. But I thought our guys came out and gave great effort in the second half and played really hard and didn't quit, didn't give up. And for a young team, that's what we wanted to see. We wanted to see how they responded when adversity hit and when somebody hit them in the mouth. And I thought the second half, they did a much better job of responding to what Marietta was doing.
I completely agree, and we've spoke many times on the young team aspect of this. Talk about what you're going to instill in them with the mindset this week. With every one of these games is important now. I mean, you talk week to week, and we're just going to talk about this week. Every one of these games is important. Talk about what you're going to instill in them this week as a young team, knowing that they just came off of a loss like this, again, against a good, talented team, but knowing that if we want to be in the playoffs and we want to take it further than that, we got to start winning these games.
That's right. Well, the teams that Marietta played, the 4 teams that they lost to were, all 4 were nationally ranked teams, and 3 of them are still in the top 20 in the country. So in my eyes, Marietta was a preseason ranked team, and our kids stood toe to toe with them for the most part, except for a couple of big plays here and there. So we're just going to harp on the positives of the game, and we're going to clean up the negatives that we had with them, some penalties and some, drop passes, missed passes, dropped interceptions, busted coverages, stuff like that happens with a young team. And, we've got to grow up. We've got to grow up quickly, and we've got to overcome those mistakes leading into the North Cobb game and for the rest of the year.
With only 4 weeks left, you're talking about that growing up that we got to do. I would agree. I mean, at this point, freshmen are sophomores, sophomores are juniors, juniors are seniors, and seniors, they're halfway through college at this point. But yeah, we've got to maintain our poise and everything. Look, this team, in some spots is so young that it's almost impossible to recover in some situations. But I give you and the coaching staff credit. You guys have maintained focus. You got these kids playing hard, playing well, and they've got their challenge ahead of them. 4 weeks left. They've got what they need to do to put this team in position for a playoff berth, and hopefully even further than that. I look forward to that. Friday night, we're here in the Den, 7:30, homecoming. We want it loud. We want it crazy. We want all the noise you guys can bring. We want North Cobb to be extremely uncomfortable as it relates to this game. And let's put them in the defensive position and put us on the offensive, and let's put up enough points to win this game on Friday night. Coach, thanks for joining us.
Appreciate it.
We look forward to you guys being out here Friday night. And as we always end the show,
Go Pack.
I just want to win.